People ignore the fact that the breeders are taking gambles. You have to take care of your breeders. That's the backbone of this industry. I need to provide for the breeder the best investment program I can. Share the upside. I've had a lot of people tell me they were glad they did it. You have people here, they have a farm and they need to sell their foals and they need to have a chance of making money. I'm proud of what's happened here. I think that we're just in the beginning stages. I'm excited really about the future.
Hi everybody and welcome to Spa Babies, presented by Spendthrift, the Breeders' Farm. I'm Dan Illman along with Nicole Russo, and we'll kick off Run Happy Travers Week with Wednesday's Spa Babies, also kicking off the 20-cent Empire 6 by taking a look at race number 5. It's 5.5 furlongs on the main track for 2-year-old filly New York breds. Nicole, the number 7, Jewel of Arabia, already has a race. We see that our colleague David Aragona has made her even money on the tote, and she's going to be really tough to beat.
I think so. You mentioned the race under her belt, and not only that, she debuted in a stake race against some well-regarded horses. I believe a couple of those will be back on Friday's program and Stakes Company as well, and she really looms large in this field.
It's an intriguing field. We've got 10 in the body of the race, 13 overall, and we'll begin our discussion with the number 1, Sweet Nazeema. Now, Sweet Nazeema is a daughter of Bellamy Road, who's just a rock-solid stallion, and this dam was a pretty decent racehorse. She won 6 times in her career with a 74-buyer top. She's foaled 2 winners, one of them being a juvenile stakes place dirt sprinter named Zekes Surprise. So there is some speed in this pedigree, but she's going to have to deal with an inside post position.
Yeah, she's going to have to deal with the inside post for a barn that doesn't necessarily always fire with first-time starters. That being said, you mentioned this pedigree. Bellamy Road has turned into one of New York's leading sires on many fronts, and this female family, a lot of speed in it and a very productive dam. You mentioned Zekes Surprise, and she's foaled 2 winners from 3 runners to date.
And you mentioned the barn, though. They like to take their time with their horses. Here's a formulator fact for Sweet Nazeema. Over the past 5 years, 2-year-old first-time starters in dirt sprints, only 0 for 30. The number 2 is Sophie Rules, who goes out for Jeremiah Engelhardt, a trainer that does like to win first time out, a $1,000 weanling who sold for 10 times that amount last year. Let's talk a little bit about the young stallion MC. A bit of a slow start with his 2-year-old debut runners, but he was a pretty quick one in his day.
He was a very fast horse, a grade 1 quality sprinter, but he developed into that as he got older. And I think that's what we're seeing with his runners, that they'll have some speed, but they're not necessarily firing first time out. This barn is on fire with its 2-year-old this summer, though, and this horse has a solid foundation coming off a bullet work and gets Jose Ortiz first out.
And the second dam was a stakes-winning sprinter, and as you can see, the third dam a foal to the great personal ensign. And you mentioned Jeremiah Engelhardt. He's been doing this for quite some time at Saratoga. Here's the formulator fact for Sophie Rules over the past 4 years. 2-year-old debut runners in state-bred maiden special weight dirt sprints at the Spa, 31% winners and a $2.71 return on investment. Certainly someone to consider is Jeremiah Engelhardt with first-time starters. Barbara's Bank is the number 3, and this one is by Bank Heist. Only 1 for 12 with 2-year-old first-time starters. What can we tell our friends at home about Bank Heist? What I've noticed from the limited opportunities Bank Heist has had is he can get a speed horse.
He can. Sire Bank Heist, a big, impressive physical, very reminiscent of his half-brother, champion sprinter Midnight Loot. But I think that his horses need some time to develop, and I think that's what you're seeing with his record with first-time starters. They're big, growthy, impressive horses, and, sometimes horses like that take a little bit of time to grow into themselves.
This dam was a really hardy racehorse. 13 wins, all of them in sprints. The second dam, a multiple stakes winning dirt sprinter. So there is sprint on the bottom of this pedigree, and I know that Spendthrift Farm likes to put speed in their horses when they make their career debuts, and they go to a very aggressive rider in Kendrick Carmouche. So with a couple of bullet workouts on the tab, I wouldn't be surprised if Barbara's Bank shows speed at a price. The 4 is Mebs Web, and this is a half to a multiple stakes place dirt runner named Collective Effort. Let's talk a little bit about Giant Surprise, limited data with juvenile debut runners, 2 for 23.
Yeah, Giant Surprise has been at stud for a couple years now in New York. Hasn't, quite gotten the mare numbers where we really have a large sample size yet. He was a good 2-year-old himself, but his foals are taking some time to develop. I think this female family should sharpen him up. It's a terrific New York female family. But, the Nick Zito barn, he's another one of those old school guys that we talk about all the time, like Wayne Lucas as well. They like to run their horses into fitness rather than working them endlessly. This filly looks like she already has a nice foundation under her, but I wouldn't be surprised if she needs a start or two to be at her best.
I agree wholeheartedly with your analysis. We see the speed on the bottom half of this pedigree, and it's a perfect segue to a Nick Zito formulator fact. Over the past 5 years, 2-year-old debut runners in maiden special weight dirt sprints, only 0 for 45. The 5 is Naked Avenger, and this is a daughter of Congrats, $19,000 buyback as a yearling. The dam was a multiple stakes winner on the dirt, and she's foaled 3 winners from 3 runners. This filly has shown a couple of bullet gate works at Monmouth. It'll be interesting to see what we get from a tote perspective. This is one of those kind of fillies that you want to say, watch the board, trained by Tim Hills, who's based in Monmouth.
Definitely, and with a Monmouth-based rider coming up to ride her as well. I look at this pedigree and I see so much speed. It's a solid female family, as you mentioned. Congrats has thrown some very fast fillies and fast 2-year-old fillies. Turbulent Descent immediately jumps to mind for me. I don't want to write this filly off because of those solid works and consistently fast works, but Monmouth shippers haven't seemed to fare that well in these races.
The 6 is Be Magic. This is a daughter of Frost Giant, who I believe won the Suburban Handicap going long, a 9% juvenile debut runner, but this female family, will impart some speed. The dam was a debut winner at 2 and won another sprint race. She's foaled 3 winners from 3 runners. You've got a very capable trainer in Rudy Rodriguez manning the controls and a couple of bullet workouts on the tab.
Yeah, I think capable is a great word for Rudy Rodriguez in a spot like this. He's very capable. Frost Giant, I think, very respectable with his 2-year-olds. A nice, solid work tab and a very productive dam. The dam won sprinting as a juvenile, won her debut, and has foaled 3 winners from as many starters.
But the horse they're all going to have to beat is the experienced member of the field, the number 7, Jewel of Arabia. This is a $140,000 weanling by Champagne winner Daredevil. And let's talk a little bit about Daredevil, because he was a brilliant 2-year-old that was unfortunately compromised by injury.
Yeah, and Daredevil is the sort of horse that you would expect to be a good 2-year-old sire. He's a grade 1 winning juvenile, around 1 turn in the Champagne at Belmont. He's by More Than Ready, who is a prominent juvenile sire himself. You would hope he would inherit that ability. Daredevil, another stallion in this freshman class with just a tremendous physical. Jewel of Arabia, as we mentioned, debuted in a stakes and ran very, very respectably, won 3rd with that 71 buyer for a barn that usually needs a start, the Christophe Clement barn. So I would expect her to actually take a step forward off that start and be very formidable here.
The Clement barn accomplished goal number 1 with Jewel of Arabia in that debut, getting a valuable stakes placing. Now they're looking for a win, and we have a positive formulator fact to boot for Jewel of Arabia. For the past 4 years with 2-year-olds on dirt adding Lasix, 5 for 11, a $4.80 ROI. high. As Nicole mentioned, Jewel of Arabia ran very well in her debut, and it was an experience-getting debut as well. She got some dirt in her face before easing out in the stretch. I like the way she galloped out also, and she's simply the one to beat. The number 8 is Never Heard of Her, and this is a daughter of the red-hot Constitution. Let's talk about this son of Tappet. He has taken the first crop sire world by fire.
He really has, and he's just winning with them left and right here, literally. He has graded winners at both Marquis Summer Meets with By Your Side at Saratoga and Amalfi Sunrise at Del Mar. They're running on turf, they're running on dirt, they're running short, they're running long. He's really a breakout from this very strong freshman sire class. Just this one coming out of Gary Contessa's barn. They're another one we talk about. They usually run much, much better second time out.
Interesting cross in the pedigree, though. A dam was a stakes-winning turf sprinter in her native New Zealand. She has already foaled a Grade 2 stakes-winning synthetic router. Maybe this filly will do well on the turf down the road. I'm going to keep an eye, like you, on Never Heard of Her on Wednesday. Adorable Maya is the number 9, and she's a half-sister to the very popular New York-bred Icabad Crane, who I believe has found a second career as a jumper. A stakes-winning router, I believe classic placed. Adorable Maya, also a half to a stakes-winning turf router named Our Golden Dream. I look at this pedigree, I see turf, I see route, I see Bernardini, I see route. Maybe this filly will simply need a race.
I think so. I think this one might be here to get her feet wet. There's a lot of turf and a lot of routing ability in the female family, and you cross that with Bernardini, and you certainly think stamina. Icabad Crane was indeed classic placed behind Big Brown in the Preakness Stakes, and not only has he gone on to his second career, he's a 3-day eventer, and going cross country, jumping cross country, those horses need a ton of stamina. So really in his second career, he's done a lot to evidence the route ability of this family.
And the final horse in the body of this field is the 10, Quantitativbreezin. This is a $24,000 May 2-year-old in training purchase by Central Banker. And I like Central Banker as a New York-based stallion. He does add a lot of speed. There is distance on the bottom of this pedigree. So a nice combination of sprint over stamina. And you have the dangerous Brad Cox as the trainer.
Yeah, the Brad Cox barn has been very dangerous this summer with their 2-year-olds, and Central Banker definitely sharpens up that route-oriented female family. He finished last year not only among New York's leading freshman sires, but he cracked the New York General Juvenile Sire list and the National Freshman Sire list, which is kind of an uphill climb for regional stallions with the numbers they get. So he's really a quality 2-year-old sire in New York.
Well, we kick off Run Happy Travers Week on Wednesday with the Empire 6, the first leg of it being our Spa Babies event. Who do you like?
I think it's very hard to look past Jewel of Arabia. This, again, I mentioned that's a barn that usually needs a start, and for that filly to come out and be stakes placed on debut behind a couple of fillies who are headed right back to stakes company, if she moves forward off that race, as is the barn's pattern, I think she's going to be very difficult to beat. Behind those two, or behind her rather, I'm going to look at 2 horses. That's going to be Sophie Rules, who's got a solid foundation. Jose Ortiz up for Jeremiah Engelhardt, and Be Magic, who again, I think everything about this horse, from the sire to the productive dam to the work tab, is just very respectable.
Well, you and I saw this race the exact same way. I like Jewel of Arabia over Sophie Rules over Be Magic, and if I had to pick a fourth, maybe Mebs Web, who's probably going to need a race, can come for a piece and crack your 10-cent superfecta. Again, we kick off the Empire 6 on Wednesday at Saratoga with your Spa Babies race presented by Spendthrift, the Breeders' Farm.